Okay, this is lesson 9-5 for 6th grade math, which is on subtracting integers. Remember, when we talk about integers, we're talking about negative numbers a lot of times, although integers are both positive and negative whole numbers as well as zero. I just want to review very quickly adding integers, because subtracting integers relies on your knowledge of adding integers. So here we go. Problem number 4 here. Sorry, my orientation is off and I cannot fix it. 5 plus -1. When you add two numbers whose signs are different, which is the case in this problem. The signs are different. That 5 is positive and the -1 is negative. You add their absolute value. You subtract their absolute values. So you take the bigger absolute value, which is 5, and you subtract 1, and that gives us 4. And then you keep the sign of the one with the bigger absolute value. 5 is bigger than 1, and 5 is positive. So our answer is positive 4, and there's no need to write the plus. Okay, over here on number 5, we also are adding two numbers whose signs are different. We have a negative and a positive. So we actually subtract 3 minus 2 is 1, and keep the sign of the bigger one. The 3 had the bigger absolute value and it's negative, so our answer is going to be negative. Over here, we are adding two numbers whose signs are the same. If the signs are the same, just add 8 plus 4 is 12 and keep the sign that they share, negative. So -8 plus -4 is -12. Let's go back over here to number 7. -2 plus -1. You are adding two numbers whose signs are the same. So just add them up. 2 plus 1 is 3. And keep the sign that they share, negative. Number 8. We're adding two numbers whose signs are different. So you subtract 9 minus 6 is 3, and keep the sign of the bigger absolute value. 9 is bigger, so that's positive, so our answer is positive. Here we're adding two numbers whose signs are different. So you subtract 10 minus 5 is 5. Keep the sign of the bigger one, -5. Just a couple more here. Signs are different. Subtract 9. Keep the sign of the bigger one, positive. 0 plus anything is just the thing you already had, so it's just -7. Signs are different. Subtract 17 minus 9 is 8. Keep the sign of the bigger one, which is positive. Okay, now we're going to move on to some actual subtraction problems. And here's what we do when subtracting with problems that involve negative numbers. We change them to addition problems. So we can see here that we have subtraction that involves negative numbers. So here's how we change it to an addition problem. We copy the first number, 8. We change the minus to a plus, and then we change the sign of the second number. The second number is -1, so we make it +1. So the idea here is that 8 minus -1 is the same thing as 8 plus 1. It will give you the same answer. And we know how to do 8 plus 1. That equals 9. So you take subtraction problems involving negatives and simply turn them into addition problems. So remember the process here for number 5. You copy the first number, -5. You change the minus to a plus. We were subtracting a +2 here, so here we're going to add a -2. The only reason for the parentheses is that it's not good form to have a plus and a minus right next to each other. You need the parentheses to separate them. Okay, now we use our rules for adding negative. When you add two numbers whose signs are the same, you add them up, 7, and keep the sign that they share, -7. All right, let's come on over here and do this one. We are subtracting with negative numbers, so we change it to an addition problem by copying the first number, -2, changing the minus to plus, and changing the sign of the second number. The second number is a -1, so we change it to a +1. Then follow our rules for addition of integers. We are adding two numbers whose signs are different, so we subtract. 2 minus 1 is 1, and keep the sign of the one with the greater absolute value, which is negative. So our answer is -1. -1. Negative. Okay, over here, it's a subtraction problem involving negatives, so we change it to addition by copying the first number, 4. Change the minus to plus, and change the sign of the second number from -6 to +6. Then we simply have 4 plus 6, and we should know that that is 10. Okay, a couple more here. 15 minus -8 is, copy the first number, change the minus to a plus, change the sign of the second number, and 15 plus 8 is 23. Number 11, copy the first number, change the minus to plus, change the sign of the second number, and 0 plus 6 is 6. That's pretty much all there is to it. Now 10 and 11 are the same two problems that I just worked, and I want to show you this thing. I call it chick chick, and that seems to have caught on with the kids. And what it's for is when you have minus a negative, we go like this. That's supposed to be plus and plus. 15 minus -8. You can do 15 plus +8. 15 plus 8 is 23. If you recall, when we did the problem a minute ago, it was also 15 plus 8 is 23. Let's go over here where I can write a little bit better. We again have minus a negative. When you see minus a negative, you can simply remember that minus a negative is the same thing as plus a positive, and you go make them both plus. So 0 plus 6 is 6, and that's a very quick way to get a problem done where you are subtracting a negative. It's the same as adding a positive. Okay, earlier in the year, we did a lot of problems like this that didn't involve negatives. So I'm hoping that you remember the basic idea, even though we're adding in using negatives. So it says to evaluate. All right, let's try that again. It says to evaluate n minus -2 for each value of n. So what you would write on your paper is n minus -2. So we have copied the expression that we are supposed to evaluate. We're going to do number 13, where it says that n equals 2. So if n equals 2, well, we can just go ahead and plug in 2 where the n is. So our problem that we're supposed to do is 2 minus -2. Now, I told you just a minute ago that subtracting a negative is the same thing as adding a positive. That says 2 plus +2. So it's just 2 plus 2. So that equals 4. Now let's try this one here. The directions are still the same. We are still evaluating n minus negative 2. So we write the expression n minus negative 2. Only this time, n equals negative 4. So we take that negative 4 and we plug it in place of n. So it's negative 4 minus negative 2. We've still got that minus a negative situation going on, so we can change it to an addition problem just like that. And then follow our rules for addition. We are now adding two numbers whose signs are different. So we really subtract 2 and keep the sign of the bigger one, of the one with the bigger absolute value. So our answer is negative 2. All right, let's try a word problem. Number 19 says, in a golf tournament, Sarah scored a +2, or people who play golf would say 2 over par, on the first round, and a -4, or 4 under par, on the second round. It doesn't even really matter if you understand golf at all. The question asks, what was the difference between her scores on the first 2 rounds? When you see the word difference, you should know that that's the answer to a subtraction problem. They are asking you to subtract these numbers. So we're going to take our 2 and we're going to subtract our -4. Do you see that situation again where we've got subtraction of a negative? I'm going to write it over here so it will turn out better. You can simply go plus plus. Now it says 2 plus +4. 2 plus 4 is 6. You can also think about this on a number line. Here's 2. Here's -4. How far are they apart? That's what the difference means. If you count these jumps here, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So the difference between +2 and -4 is 6.